Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Niall Kinza Oliver, and today we're going to talk about ADHD, and specifically ADHD medication and how that affected me as a creative. Now, I think for most creatives who have ADHD, I'm sure you can probably relate to this, that I had a bit of trepidation about taking the medicine before I started. I don't know if it was unreasonable, but I was somewhat afraid that the medicine would somehow inhibit my creativity. I thought that it would cause me to be less creative. Up until that point, the only thing I really knew about my life was that, I had all these different interests and, I had all these different special thoughts and things firing in my brain at all times of the day, and that was what I thought made me creative. But actually, that was getting in the way of my creativity, and I started taking intuitive, I believe. Yeah, intuitive. I started taking that in around, I think, March of last year. And it's been a game changer. It's been a game changer. In fact, before I even get any farther in this video, if there's only one thing that I say in this video is that if you're a creative who has ADHD and you're thinking about taking medicine, do it. Do it. It will make everything better. Art-wise, creative-wise, it'll make everything better, and you'll be kicking yourself thinking, why didn't I take this before? So let me break this down into why I'm saying this. Alright, so before, when I had just raw ADHD, I was this raw dog in the world, as it were. It's like I had all these different creative ideas, and I had all these different things I wanted to do, and that was amazing. Having all these ideas was fantastic. But the thing is, I just couldn't focus enough to knuckle down and be able to see these ideas through the exact way I wanted to. I wasn't able to just sit down and just learn theory. I wasn't able to just sit down and just maybe watch some tutorials on how to use the DAW that I use and then get it within 1 or 2 goes. I'd have to watch it, and then while I'm watching it, I'd have to recreate what they're doing in the tutorial, and then after like a couple of months, like 6 months of just beating it into my brain, I'd finally be able to do it. But I wouldn't understand it 100%. I would know that, oh, this does this and this does this, and I would be able to replicate that for myself, for my own works. But then I couldn't. There was like a 10% fogginess as to why it worked. I just knew it worked. For now, I'm gonna keep going, but I wouldn't be able to explain to somebody else, shall we say? But taking the medicine has really improved my focus. Now, obviously, that's what's supposed to do. I think ADHD medicine is supposed to, improve your focus. That's the name of the game. But yeah, it's improved my focus in all aspects of my life. But for me, the most important aspect of my life is my creative pursuits, my creative endeavors. And it has helped me so much. Again, it's like night and day. So let's go ahead and break down how it's helped me. So first things first, before I took medicine, it's like I could see all these vivid colors. It's like a technicolor rainbow every day, at all times of the day. That can be good and bad. Some days you want to see bright, vivid colors. Sometimes at night you just want to turn it off, but your brain's just always going. Just colors, 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 colors. It's like an LA gang war circa 1994 on an after-school special on TV. You know what I mean? But once I started taking the medicine, it was like an immediate shift. Like, I think the first 2 weeks I was kind of sleepy, which reminds me, I did take Ritalin as a kid, but the first 2 weeks made me sleepy. My parents took me off it. If only I had toughed it out, I could have been so much different. So much different. My life would have been so different. But anyways, so after the initial 2 weeks of like getting used to it wore off, it became like, how could I say this? Take it over. Let's do over. So after the initial 2 weeks of drowsiness kind of wore off, I realized that while I didn't see as many colors as I did before, the colors that remain that I did see, I could see much more deeply. They could really resonate with me more. And I think what happened was the important things stuck and the frivolous things kind of went away. And for example, when I was raw dog in life, I would be interested in new country and culture like every 2-3 months. For example, I spent my whole life focused on Tokyo, but then in my 20s, I really liked the idea of Scandinavia. Like, I haphazardly taught myself Swedish, tried to teach myself Norwegian. They're too close together, I couldn't do that. But I was really into Scandinavia, and that was like one of my main fixations. But outside of that, I'd be into different countries. Like I was really into Turkey for a while, and Istanbul, and then somewhere along the way, I got into Central Asia, and I got really into Kazakhstan. And that was like my last special country interest before I started taking medicine. Now, the interest in Kazakhstan has stuck. It's not as bright as it was maybe a year ago when it was all new to me, but it's stuck, and now I can go, back, and I can actually really appreciate the culture and the history of the country. Same with, Sweden and, with Japan. I live here now. So, but I don't have any new countries that I've suddenly become obsessed with in the past year since I've been taking this medicine, essentially. And I think that's good. I think that's great, because that means I can focus on the countries and the cultures that I do like, and I can appreciate them a bit more deeply. I can spend more time learning about them as opposed to hopping to one thing every couple of months. Now, it's the same with musical interests as well, and the creative things that I want to do. I used to want to paint. I'm not a good visual artist, and painting is not my ministry, as it were. It's not my calling, and that's fine. But I no longer have these urges to do things that don't resonate deeply with me, because my brain's no longer firing on all cylinders at every millisecond of every day. I can focus more now on really honing my skills and really honing my ideas musically, sonically. And even for this platform, for YouTube, I always wanted to sit down and give like a real proper go at, vlogging and just seeing what happened. The best that could happen was I could build an audience for my music projects. The worst that could happen was I'd have a diary of how I felt that I can watch years from now in the future. But I could just never sit down to make the time and just blab on camera. And, I'm trying it again now, thanks to the medicine, as it were. But so to bring it back to a creative endeavor, though, you can focus a lot more on becoming better at whatever it is you want to do, because now you have the brain space and the patience to actually learn new skills, understand those new skills that you learn, not just mimic them and regurgitate them, but also apply them to your creative endeavors, and then also think of new ideas with those skills. Because sometimes you can learn a new skill, you kind of know how to mimic it, and you can kind of copy and paste it into what you're doing, but you might not be able to understand it to the point where you could recreate it later on down the road. But with me and my specific experience, I can, for example, I'm learning theory finally now. I'm finally continuing my education in musical theory, and it doesn't seem like gobbledygook to me because I can focus on it and I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Whereas a year ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, it just seemed like spaghetti and noodles, and I just couldn't get it. I'd just be like, oh, okay. But now I can actually focus on it, and I can understand it. And as I'm understanding it in real time, I can think of how I can apply this to whether it be Moondahlia, whether it be future Jupiter Garden, or whether it be any Avec Nile music that I'm currently working on for my, to honor my mom's EP, or that EP to honor my mom. And it's fantastic. It's great. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, I think that's really the crux of this video that I want to get at. I don't need to keep going on in circles and beating a dead horse. I think if I wasn't on the medicine, I'd be talking about all these other things that aren't related to creativity. But the main crux of this video is that if you are a creative person and you're thinking about taking medicine for ADHD, okay, hold on. If you are a creative person with ADHD and you're thinking about taking medicine for it, then I suggest that first you get properly diagnosed, because it might not be ADHD, it might be something else. And then if you do get diagnosed, don't be afraid to take the medicine, because depending on the dosage and depending on how much you take, it can only make things better. I've got a dosage that works for me. If I take any more, I'd probably be too robotic. But if I take any less, it would still be chaos. And I've got this really good sweet spot that enables me to, show up on time for work, not mix up work engagements with creative engagements. I'm no longer, having to rush to work because I woke up too late, or things of that nature, because I can control that. I can control my day job and control my finances to the point where it frees up all this other time for me to really, really dig deep and focus on being a better creative. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about this. So yeah, to tie everything up before I start rambling again, If you're a creative person with ADHD and you're worried about taking medicine and how that's going to affect your creativity, I'm here to say fear not. Now, in my experience, it has only been a blessing. It has only helped me. So take that what you will, and I'll see you next time.